which you thought was going to be wrong. But and this will be actually an interesting follow-up because we got Steve in Washington. How are you?
Hey, what's up?
So, it says here that you want to know why we believe in science and is it credible?
Yeah, like not every aspect of I'm asking specifically for as like you just talked to the last call about dark matter and stuff like that. Like that aspect, why do you believe what you believe, and what makes that evidence credible?
So it's not the findings of science that I necessarily believe. And by the way, we don't always have a finding. We may still be exploring. It is the method of science that is the single most consistently reliable method of discerning the true facts of the universe that anybody has ever come up with. These processes are self-correcting, self-checking, not on their own. I mean, people do it when we find errors. And all the times when we found mistakes in scientific findings, we found it by doing more and better science. At no point has any religious proclamation shown an error in science. And this is so telling that when Kenny calls in, he uses the expansion of the universe, a finding of science, and then interprets a passage written in Hebrew as if they knew and understood or were inspired by God to reveal that God expands the universe like a curtain. Science, until somebody comes up with some other way of examining and coming up with good models about the universe, it's the best we've got. And our confidence in the findings of science should be proportional to the evidence, tentative and subject to change when we find the sort of data that should revise it. And also, I have no better option. So do you have a better option than science for us to rely on?
As far as what you're looking for, not at all. And me being a Christian, let me say this, if I may. The problem with guys like Kenny and William Lane Craig, you cannot take the Bible and then try to use science to reason with it because they're contradictory.
Can I ask something real quick, Steve? You said a second ago something about what I was looking for. And now you have a problem with what William Lane Craig and Kenny do. By all means, set up a conference call with Craig and Kenny, and you guys sort out what the truth of your theism is, and then call me back. But what is it that you think I'm looking for that science is good for, but you have a better method?
No, well, I was like you believe. I agree about the scientific method, the method. But what I was concerned with is why do you believe like space, the dark matter stuff.
Did I say that I believe? What do I believe about dark matter, Steve?
Well, don't let me put words in your mouth.
Yeah,
that's why
I haven't said a thing about it. As a matter of fact, I'm on record for saying that string theory is pretty much magic. That I piss off a lot of physicists. I don't know enough about it, so I'm not making proclamations. But based on what I've read and what I've studied a little bit, I'm not convinced that it's anything other than us fooling ourselves with math to some extent when we start talking about those things. But I'm not an expert. So the things that I believe are things that I've become convinced of because I am compelled by the evidence and the method that produced that evidence. That's it. So what is it that what is something that I believe that you think I shouldn't?
And actually, tagging on to that,
I got a clear understanding on what you're saying now as far as so basically you really actually like you're like one of the first people I talk to who say they believe atheism, and it's genuinely a lack of belief and not an actual. Well, I do believe this because of, whatever reason. You really just have a lack of belief and expect somebody else to, come up with a methodology.
Well, it depends on the gods and everything. So, there are gods that I'm not convinced exist. There are also some gods that I'm convinced don't exist. I am convinced Zeus does not exist. Sorry, friends.
Right.
Steve, could I just revisit your original question that you called in, because we have some notes in front of us. Here's what we're looking at.
Okay.
Why do you believe in science? Is it credible? You ask why my beliefs are justified. How about you? Let's drill down to this. Specifically, what areas of science do you believe are not credible?
Certain aspects of space. Stuff that they believe is that they say is possible.
Well, we need you to be way, way, way more specific. We're going to ask what findings of science you object to, certain aspects of space that they say is possible tells us nothing.
All right, like this living in space, like the space station. I've tried many aspects to try to see it myself. Go visit.
Whoa! I'm trying to. I swear, Steve, I just want to understand. Are you suggesting that there's not a space station and people can't live on a space station?
If the space station is actually in space, I don't see how it's possible, given the fact that
you realize Earth is in fucking space, right?
In space.
You do realize we live on a planet that is in space, and when we built something on that planet and included portions of the atmosphere from this planet and moved it just outside of our atmosphere, so that now it's also in space but not in clay. What is it about this that is scientifically impossible?
Well.
Do you believe? Do you believe that you can go scuba diving and go underwater and breathe with an apparatus?
If you take the appropriate gear, yes.
Okay. You don't think the astronauts have the appropriate gear to breathe?
No. I have. Yeah. That's.
I refuse to waste Lloyd's time on taking that call any further at all. Wow.
What do you do with that? What do you do with that?
Can we get Kenny back?
Yeah, come back, Kenny. Always forget.
Or maybe even G-Man at this point.